more women farmers. We had a good conversation about what is a woman farmer. Not all of them are widows. You know, some of them might be people, youth who've earned money, maybe working with us, and then they've bought their own land. Or there might be men and women who have kind of divided, like husband and wife who've divided land. And in the worst cases where you'll see a male farmer who kind of jointly owns land with his wife, and he'll be like, okay, this last bit of coffee is yours, go get registered, this is your spending money, even though she's worked the whole season. So it's complicated, but this is something that we are diving into a bit more to kind of understand the nuances. But these farmers last season supplied us 375 metric tons of coffee cherry, which we turned into about 52 tons of export green, which hopefully you guys will help us convert into about 44.5 tons of roasted coffee, which will be about 5 million espresso shots. So now we do pride ourselves in paying our farmers well, and that's part of why our farmers work with us. So farmers earn 58% of our export price, but in real terms, what that means is for every kilo of coffee that we sell, farmers will earn $4.73. Now to contextualize this, if farmers are supplying on the ordinary supply chains in Uganda, like the local middlemen that will be in their area, they'll only earn $2.78. So this is why quality really is very meaningful for farmers who in this part of Uganda. Now, every year we publish our impact and transparency report, and that includes our financials. So this is the price that Falcon pay us. So this year it was on average 370 cents per pound. So you can see the lion's share goes to farmers. Right? Then that red chunk is what it costs us to produce the coffee ourselves. So that is all of our staff salaries, that's our labourers, that's everything at our washing station. Now, the yellow chunk is that we have to use a third-party mill. So we do that in the capital in Kampala, and that's all the export related and like the final stage of production. Government, of course, has to have their cut for doing nothing. We borrow money, so we pay interest on it. Then we reinvest back part of our earnings into farmer trading. Then, of course, we have our overheads, and then we have a small chunk for profit, which goes to cover our loans, which basically is what we take out to build the station. So we pay farmers well. We try to make sure we're paying our staff well and we treat them well. At least I'd say so. But beyond focusing on the price, which is, I think, crucial to quality, I think a large chunk of our growth is due to how we work with the farming community. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about this, and each one of these is associated with each one of our microlots. So for every farmer to work with us, they must be registered. And registration means a few things. The first thing is that they receive a book that has the contract that they sign, and it also allows them to record all of their transactions with us. And then at the end of the season, they'll present their book to us in order to get their bonus. Right? And so, but from a systems perspective, it means that every single farmer we work with is registered on our mobile app that we've developed in-house. And then every time a farmer delivers coffee to us, they must get a receipt, even if they're only coming with 1 kilo. I think last season there was about 13 transactions of only 1 kilo. They must get a written receipt, and that receipt must be logged against their name in the system, so that we have total traceability of every kilo of coffee back to that individual farmer. And then, because we're fully digitized, so roughly 60% of our farmers have mobile phones. I think 3 of them might have smartphones, but the rest of them have feature phones. So we will communicate with farmers in mass using SMS. So whenever we change price, whenever we start the season or close the season, whenever we do trainings or have any events, we communicate to farmers, so they must hear it from us. No one can hold information from them, right? So this is really crucial about building transparency, transparent trust, right? These farmers have had really bad relationships in the past. People will move around with dodgy weighing scales, right? So we do everything we can to basically build up trust with farmers through transparency, right? So this is a glimpse into our mobile app. This is what the team sees. So you choose a farmer, but then in order to enter any information against the farmer, you must find that farmer from a list. So that really helps maintain data accuracy. And then all that data goes into our dashboard. And just to give you one real example, right? During the coffee season, Dan and I don't go to bed at night, even if it's 1 o'clock in the morning, until we get the data in from the team. So we will get, the buying team will submit all of their buying records, and the station team will submit what they've received at the station. And we check for those to correspond to make sure we've received everything we bought, and then we can go to sleep, right? And this allows us to make sure that we don't lose our traceability of our coffee. So I'll come back to this in a second. So because of these systems that we have, it allows us to have like a rich picture year on year of our farmers. It allows us to kind of de-risk a little bit. So one of the things that we can do is we give out zero interest loans to farmers. So last year we gave out loans to 78 farmers of around $11,000. And it's usually between $100 to $400. Right now we're in the middle of giving out loans. We've done about 53 farmers, about $11,000 again. We'll probably double that and get up to about 20,000. And that's, you know, a way of like kind of building loyalty for farmers, but also because they get all of their money usually at once. Around this time of the year, they're really cash strapped. So some of them will need it to prepare for the season. Some of them will just want to have to pay school fees. So we'll do that because we've built like multiple years worth of history with these farmers, and our data shows us. So we know this farmer's delivered a certain amount. So we can basically we have our calculations say how much can we lend each of these farmers who is eligible, and so our systems allow that. And what's also really important is that because of the trust that we built with farmers, they're also now saving money with us. So instead of getting cash for each purchase, they're actually saying, you know what, hold on to the money, we'll get it when it builds up. So last season, 350 farmers saved over $30,000 with us. So that for me is one of my most important metrics of how we're doing with farmers. Because if they didn't trust us, if we were doing something wrong in the field, they wouldn't leave any money with us, right? So what we can do is, anytime a farmer comes, we can see exactly how they stand. This is a real-time dashboard that we have that our team can choose a farmer from a list, and we'll see how much coffee they've delivered, how much they owe us, or how much we owe them. And we can then send out SMSs to farmers at the end of the month, so they know that we know their balance. And if there's a mistake, we can correct it early on. So this is really, really important. And the reason why they save with us is because there aren't any savings institutions in the area. There are no banks. They're 2 hours from the nearest bank, and banks also come with fees, right? So they'd rather save with us. But what we're also trying to do is build up local savings institutions. So we have what's called village savings and loans associations, and we've been spending the last few years strengthening those. So farmers, especially the smaller farmers, can borrow and save amongst themselves. And this year, right now, we're doing a lot of work to try and connect up the bigger farmers with banks. And we're trying to bring representatives of the banks much closer to the farmers so they can access better financial services. We also do a lot of training on agricultural practices, and effectively this is about improving yields, right? If we improve yields, we improve farmer incomes. And this year for the first time, because we do data collection with farmers every year, we've actually given farmers their own scorecard. We've told them how they've done against our metrics, against each of these areas. We've given them either a smiley face or a sad face, so they can also see how we consider they're doing, and then we have much more targeted training on an individual farmer. In fact, we try not to talk about it as training, we talk about it as advisory services. Because we're not an NGO, we don't have to kind of account for, oh, we've trained 500 people, right? I'd rather, if farmers don't need training, then we sit at home and we have a longer holiday. But as long as farmers see it, then they can say, yeah, this is where we want to get trained, and these are our goals for the rest of the season. So this is what we asked them, what they wanted to achieve over the next 6 months, so we can work with them on achieving those goals. As part of the training is also Agroforestry. So we distributed close to 14,000 tree seedlings over the last 4 years, including shade trees, but also fast-growing trees. So farmers have something alternative to chop down. So they don't go for the old trees, but they go for these ones that just keep regenerating for firewood. Right? But we also do a lot of environmental protection work. We are on the edge of a buffer zone. Farmers do encroach into the national park. It happens, right? They have their land running up against streams. They do agriculture up against those streams. It is a reality. But what we are trying to do is explain to them why they should not. And you can't just tackle these things in isolation, because if you've got a farmer who is like, I need this space to grow crops, otherwise I don't eat. This is why we're trying to look at this in a much more holistic way.
So, in eastern Uganda, culturally, women don't use their own land, and if they do, they would have just small gardens. So that means that the production would not sustain them. Like previously, in the area where we work, women farmers would usually supply the coffee, their cherries, or even parchment to their male neighbors or to male within the family, who then would sell the coffee to a local, to a company or a middleman, and then of course they would benefit from higher price than women, and sometimes also from bonuses or second payment. So now, because we've been working the area for a number of years, we are actually getting more female farmers registered with us who go directly, who supply us directly. Those are small suppliers, but we are encouraging them to do so, and they told us that they are now getting more comfortable to do it. So they also get the second payment now, or the bonuses. Yeah. Okay. And another important thing is to mention. So as you understood from the presentation, we work deeply in the village, and most of unlike multinational companies or other big companies who usually work closely to urban settings, where it might be maybe sometimes easier because of the infrastructure. We work deep in village, and we chose to do so because for two reasons. Of course, one reason is we want to be near to the coffee so we can get fresh cherries in time. But the other reason is we also want to be close to the farmers, to the community, because we also look at it from the reason that there is lots of work that has to be done during processing of coffee. So we are also thinking why to shift all the possibility and opportunity from the rural area to a nearest town, and basically cut the farmers from the opportunity to have extra employment or extra income activity. So another thing is to mention that Uganda in last years is really experiencing huge population boom. So also in the rural areas there are really many young people, like youth, who also often don't own land. So the only work opportunity would be to do agriculture, but if they don't own land, then there are not many opportunities left. So sometimes they would shift to towns or to urban areas. So we are proud, I would say, that we hire lots of people during coffee season as laborers, and we also have some of our colleagues are from the local community. I would like to mention this lady. Her name is Winnie. She's our colleague. She actually comes from Kampala, but I think it's good to mention her because she first joined us 4 years ago. When she came as a visitor, she came to visit her partner who was doing some consulting work with us. And she didn't know anything about coffee. She's a seamstress, tailor by profession. And she just started sorting coffee, and she started asking questions. She was sorting coffee as a volunteer. Then we said, okay, Winnie, if you are sorting the coffee, you should also be paid like the other women are. And then she kept asking more and more questions. And now, 4 years later, she's actually managing whole secondary drying yard, and she's also supporting us during export. During off-season, she's doing roasting and quality, green coffee quality training, and yeah, so that's really one of our members.
So, and this, I promise, is our last slide. So we do have a long-term commitment to our farming community, and I think because we've been trying to have a positive impact, it's why our farming community has stood by us in hard times, particularly during COVID, when I think everyone had hard times. But also there are times where people will come into the area and they'll offer a few hundred shillings more per kilo. And economic theory would say surely all the farmers would jump to the slightly higher price. But the farmers, they stay stable and they stick with us. And I've asked them why. I said, because we know that it's more than just the price. It's all the other things that you're growing. So every year, this is why we put some of our own revenues into our development projects. We've also been lucky to have some good NGO partners and some donors, and even some roasters have contributed as well. And last year, we built 3 toilet blocks in 3 primary schools, funded by the Czech Embassy. This year, the same donor is helping us build 5 springs in 5 villages to bring safe drinking water for those communities. We'll build roads, we put down water lines. We've done the trainings for the farmers year on year, and we distributed the trees. And the reason for all of this is that we see that we need to look at things really holistically in terms of change. We're trying to create a win-win-win-win situation, right? We need to tackle the underlying causes of poverty that our farmers are facing, right? We need to tackle that vulnerability so that we can actually start to look at other areas. You can't look at making improvements to the environment unless you address that vulnerability. And even for us as a company, right, we want quality. You can't have farmers who are vulnerable if you're talking about quality, because they will just say, let me strip pick my coffee, sell it all and move on to the next thing. These farmers have 10 different sources of income. Coffee is just a small part of it. So, and for us as we grow, we don't want to be growing and doubling our numbers of farmers every year. It's far better for us, for the same farmer, just to increase the coffee that they're delivering. And ultimately, we want to be able to offer you guys a great tasting coffee that you can be confident in how it's produced. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.